Jiri Lehecka trains the way he plays, fast, sharp, and with a level of urgency that shows he understands exactly what his game depends on. When you strip away all the excess and look closely at why his sessions are so intense, it becomes clear that his entire training approach is built around one thing: making his body react faster than the game can challenge him. Everything he does funnels toward improving his speed, his reaction timing, and the efficiency of every movement on court. What sets Lehecka apart is how quickly he gets in and out of each step. That doesn't happen by accident. His training is designed to force him into situations where he must commit, change direction, and recover instantly. These sessions push his legs to handle constant acceleration and deceleration, the exact rhythm of real tennis points. Because he plays an explosive style, any hesitation, one extra fraction of a second, can cost him the chance to dictate. When he moves well, his entire game comes alive. His forehand gains more time, his court coverage expands, and he can take the ball early, which is one of his biggest strengths. His speed work isn't about looking dramatic. It's about sharpening the parts of movement that spectators don't notice. The micro steps before contact, the ability to stay balanced while shifting weight aggressively, and the quick reactions when the ball deflects off the net cord or takes a late bounce. He trains these moments repeatedly because modern tennis requires immediate decisions. Big hitters force him wide, counterpunchers change pace, serve and volley players rush the net. If he isn't fast off the mark, he loses the freedom to play his natural attacking style. Lehecka's sessions often push him into uncomfortable zones where his legs burn and his coordination is tested under fatigue. That's exactly the point. Tennis doesn't reward players who are only sharp in the first 20 minutes. It rewards those who stay sharp deep into a third set after 2 hours of sprinting. His training makes him hold form and maintain speed even when he no longer feels fresh. That ability separates consistent tour competitors from players who fade late in matches. He also works heavily on reactions because the sport has shifted into a faster, more chaotic era. Shots come back with more pace than ever. Rallies change direction quickly. Opponents disguise their intentions better. A player like Lehecka, who relies on being the one who strikes first, must read the play instantly. His sessions teach his eyes, brain, and feet to operate together under pressure. He doesn't just run, he processes. He tracks the cues in a split second: the shoulder turn of an opponent, the angle of the racket face, the height of the incoming ball. The more he trains these reactions, the more automatic they become in matches. When you watch him play, you see the results clearly. He moves with an urgency that doesn't look rushed, just efficient. He gets to wide balls early enough to hit with authority instead of merely countering. He recovers to the middle faster than most, which allows him to stay aggressive deep in rallies. His legs aren't just moving fast, they're organized, strong, and capable of producing explosive force repeatedly. There's also a deeper reason behind why he trains so intensely for speed and quickness. His entire game depends on turning defense into offense in a heartbeat. He's not the type to sit back and wait for errors. His mindset is forward-driven. If he reaches a ball early, he can strike cleanly. If he strikes cleanly, he can take control. And if he takes control, he can finish points on his terms. Speed isn't just a tool for him. It's the engine of his whole identity as a player. Rotational training is the backbone of his power, and when you look at his game closely, you can see exactly why he invests so much time into it. His style depends on force that starts from the ground, travels through his hips and torso, and explodes through his racket with almost no energy wasted. When he trains rotation, he is training the very engine that drives his serve and forehand, the two shots that define him as a modern power player. So when he goes into those intense sessions, the goal isn't to look strong. It's to create a body that can twist, load, drive, and deliver force with absolute efficiency, all while staying balanced under extreme pressure. The foundation of his rotational work begins with how his hips initiate movement. Rotation in tennis always starts low. The hips turn first, then the torso follows, then the shoulder, arm, and racket whip through. If the hips don't rotate explosively, nothing else in the chain fires correctly. Lehecka works hard to make sure his hips can fire repeatedly. with strength and speed, because that's what allows him to accelerate the racket head faster than most opponents can handle. His forehand has become one of the fastest and heaviest on tour for this exact reason. His body loads and unloads energy with incredible sharpness. His training reinforces this sequence so that every time he steps into a forehand, he isn't just swinging with his arm. He's driving the shot with the full weight of his body snapping through the ball. Rotational training also gives him the stability to create pace without losing control. Power is useless if it throws a player off balance, especially in long rallies where precision matters as much as force. Lehecka's sessions target the muscles that keep his torso steady as he rotates violently. When his trunk stays strong and centered, he can hit with massive speed while keeping his shoulders aligned and his racket path clean. That's why his forehand isn't just powerful, it's repeatable. The spin, the shape, and the direction stay consistent because his body remains stable even as he produces huge torque. That stability comes from hours of focused work on rotational strength that keeps the upper body controlled while the lower body drives the movement. His serve benefits from the same foundation. A big first serve isn't purely about arm strength, it's about how well the body coils and uncoils. Lehecka trains the coil, the deep turn of the torso, the load through the legs and hips, the stretch across the chest and shoulder, and then the explosive release upward. Without rotational power, a serve becomes flat and predictable. With it, he generates the kind of pace that lets him hold serve comfortably, stay ahead in matches, and apply constant pressure. His training makes sure that this rotational sequence stays powerful deep into long service games, not just at the start of a match. That's why he can maintain a high percentage of service holds even under fatigue. His body is conditioned to rotate with the same sharpness every time he tosses the ball. He trains mobility so seriously that his style requires deep, athletic movement patterns. His court coverage depends on being able to open his hips quickly, sit low into his legs, and rotate through positions that are uncomfortable for most players. When he chases a heavy cross-court ball or defends a deep forehand, he often reaches positions that call for both flexibility and control. Tight hips would slow him down. A stiff upper body would delay his swing preparation. Limited ankle mobility would stop him from staying balanced when sliding or changing direction. His stretching routine ensures that these joints remain open, smooth, and capable of handling those extreme angles at high speed. His mobility work also protects the quality of his rotation. Even though his rotational power comes from strength, the movement itself requires freedom. The hips must turn, the spine must rotate, the rib cage must expand and contract, and the shoulders must glide smoothly. When any part of that chain becomes tight, the entire kinetic flow suffers. A stiff hip limits the drive of the torso. A rigid back limits the separation needed for power. Tight shoulders slow the whip of the racket. Mobility keeps these areas loose so his body can coil and uncoil efficiently. Without that freedom, his strongest weapons, his serve and forehand, would lose speed and accuracy. Another critical reason he invests in mobility is injury prevention. His game puts enormous stress on the lower back, hips, hamstrings, and shoulders. The torque he produces on every forehand is powerful enough that, without proper flexibility, he would risk constant strains. Stretching keeps the muscles supple and able to lengthen under load, which reduces the risk that explosive movement will pull something out of alignment. His ability to train intensely day after day depends on his body recovering fully and staying flexible. Mobility work helps flush tension out of the body, improves blood flow, and ensures that he can return to training without compensation patterns that lead to injury. Mobility also plays a major role in his quick recovery between points. When a player moves efficiently, with joints working in their full range, each step becomes lighter, smoother, and less taxing. Lehecka's ability to stay fresh deeper into matches is connected to this. If his muscles were constantly fighting stiffness, every change of direction would cost more energy. Clean movement saves energy, and flexibility gives him that efficiency. His stretching allows his legs to stay loose, his spine to stay relaxed, and his shoulders to stay free, so that fatigue doesn't creep into his technique. The first reason he invests in cardio is straightforward: Professional level tennis is extremely demanding. Points may be short, but matches stretch over hours. Between those explosive bursts, the body must recover instantly. If it doesn't, the legs get heavy, the lungs tighten, and the brain slows down. Lehecka relies on quick reactions and fast decisions, so fatigue cannot be allowed to blur his timing. Cardio training keeps his system efficient. His heart pumps faster, his breathing stabilizes quickly, and his muscles clear fatigue before it becomes a problem. Another key reason is that his aggressive game requires repeated sprints. He constantly moves inside the baseline, rushes to take the ball early, and explodes into open space to control rallies. This type of play burns energy quickly. Without strong aerobic and anaerobic conditioning, his movement would drop in quality as the match grows longer. Cardio work conditions his body to handle these repeated bursts. It trains his muscles to keep firing even when they're tired, allowing him to stay fast in the late stages when most players slow down. Cardio also directly supports his recovery between points. In high-intensity matches, players only get about 15 to 25 seconds between rallies. That short window is the difference between staying explosive and falling behind. A strong cardiovascular base helps him bring his heart rate back down quickly, clear lactic acid faster, and reset his rhythm before the next point. This ability to recover rapidly is one of the silent advantages elite athletes have. They appear fresh even when the match is physically exhausting. Another reason Lehecka prioritizes cardio is that it stabilizes his technique under fatigue. When the lungs burn and the legs get heavy, most players' mechanics break down. Footwork gets sloppy, hip rotation slows, and shots lose precision. His cardio training reduces that risk. When his overall endurance is high, he can hold his form longer. His rotation stays sharp, his racket acceleration stays powerful, and his balance stays intact deep into final sets. This is crucial for someone like him, whose game is built on taking the ball early and hitting big from both wings. He needs to swing fully and commit to aggressive positions, even when the body is tired.